As I say, few of these learning outcomes that are highlighted on the screen, they will be part of that second part session. But today we'll be looking at how to use technology to meet accessibility needs. So starting off with this, we'll start with speech to text. Now, you've probably all come across speech to text in some form or another. For me, the earliest form of speech to text that I used to use was playing around with text messaging, and I used to see the microphone next to the keypad. I'd click on that and I'd talk, and then it would basically translate what I was saying in speech, and it would put it into text, and then I'd send a text message. And then that developed into being able to do that on different social media platforms, things which I would use. And then instead of me having to hold my phone to send to type out a message, I could just hit that microphone button, talk, and then it would do it all in text, and I could send the text. So that's the easiest way to describe the first functionality I had when I was using speech to text. But there are so many options available to you in which you can support those under your care with speech to text. So what is it? Basically, it helps users communicate effectively efficiency using voice. And you can use this as a voice function on smartphones, computers, laptops, lots of different programs found on devices. And let's say I'll go through those today. But we'll start off with, and I will just highlight here throughout this session, I will be using the most popular devices or devices available to people. So Android, iOS, and then Windows, Mac. So those are the ones which I'll be going through today, showing you how to operate off of those. But as I say, in the notes for the session, I have put a step-by-step guide to other technologies, so I can send that out to you. But we'll start off with Android. So speech to text, talking and having it appear as text in order to search for something or send a message to somebody. Again, that can be hugely beneficial, especially someone who does not have the dexterity to type away on a message. The text can be quite small, it can be quite hard to use hands as well, typing out those. And this is where this feature is very helpful. So firstly, if you pull up your Android device, and I've just taken a screenshot from my Android, what I will say is the easiest way to find accessibility features, if you cannot find them anywhere or you really struggle, is just go to your search option on your phone and literally type in what you're looking for, and it will give you a list of options, and usually next to the settings cog, you'll find what you're looking for. So how do you activate speech to text? So as I say, a few ways we can do this. Firstly, if you're just looking at things like text messaging or social media, I've just taken a few screenshots. So this is from a web browser. So I've got Google here, just opened up Google, and in my search bar right here, there is a microphone option. If I tap on that and start talking, it will then put that into text. Same goes for text messaging. So this is my text messaging on my phone. And again, next to the camera, media features, you can see microphone. Just tap on that and you'll talk. Now, one thing I will highlight, it may require you to enable permissions. So if you see something pop up saying enable microphone, don't suddenly worry that the phone's trying to get you to click the microphone option so it listens into your private conversations. No, it's just asking permission that it can use your voice to then turn it into text. So that's where you would enable it. If you don't get that message or you don't have the option of a microphone, go into your settings. Easiest way to do it is just type permissions or go to settings, permissions. In there, you can go to your various apps and enable the microphone. And that just means that you'll be able to use that feature on there. Now, another way to do it is to enable this on your keyboard. So you might go onto your keyboard on your phone. So for me, I have a Samsung. Again, Android comes in many different companies and devices. But what you want to be looking for is your keyboard options. So if you can't find it in there, you've enabled permissions. Again, go to your settings on your Android, go to your keyboard settings. And if you can't find those, just type keyboard into search. And you're looking for keyboard list and default. And in here, just making sure everything is turned on. So you can see it's defaulted. It's all switched on. Everything's all on in there. But this is where you'll find the features for that. And then again, you're looking for that microphone option. Now, iOS, so you're looking at an Apple device here, so an iPhone. What you want to do is you want to go to settings. You're looking for general. You go into keyboard. And then when you go through to your keyboard, you want to enable dictation. So right at the bottom, you'll see there's this slider. If you click on that, so it's showing like this, so it's turned on. That enables dictation. Dictation is speech to text. So now you'll see that your microphone will be enabled on your keypad, and that goes throughout the iPhone. So again, when you click on that, just one press on that, you will then be able to talk, and it will put your voice into text. So they're the easiest ways to turn on. So Android, go into your settings, and you're looking for your microphone settings, just make sure the permissions are on, or going to any keyboard and seeing that the microphone's there. And then on iOS, you're just making sure that dictation is turned on in your keyboard settings again. So what about computers? I'm on a Windows computer right now. How can I turn dictation on? And you can enable dictation for any area that you can type on your computer. So whether it be in your search bar, whether it be a Word document, again, an internet search, even the messaging on here. So for example, what you want to do is on your keypad, and you can test this right now with me if you're using a Windows device. If you hold the key which says WIN on your keyboard, it might be old, it might literally be a Windows logo. So you'll see those 4 boxes. So you're looking for an option. It normally sits between Control and Alt. So around there next to your spacebar, if you hit that button, so again, it will either be Windows or have the letters WIN, and then you hit H. So hold that and H on your keyboard at the same time. So Windows and H, press them together, and it will enable dictation. So this is it. You can see this box appears. And when I'm ready to start talking and having it typing up what I'm saying, I'll just click this. Now, just for reference here, you do have a settings menu. So there are a few voice types that you can access on here. You can also add punctuation. So I've clicked add punctuation, and you can also set up your microphone. So an error that I get here is people often try and use this on computers, but their microphone isn't set up properly. So just make sure this is set up, and there are a few other features available in here. Now, as I say, I can use this in anything. So if I tap if I bring up a notepad, I'll show you, for example. So I've got my notes on here. Now, if I hit Win and H at the same time, and then I've clicked that, and you can see it is now typing up exactly what I'm saying on my screen. So I've just turned it off again. Now I can also do that in any box. So if I go to chat, if I direct you to chat as well, and I start typing, I'll start talking now. I'm just going to stop that and type that in. You'll all see a message pops in. And again, that's because I hit Win and H at the same time. And it depends. You have to have clicked in the box for it to start to work, but it will start typing out what you're saying. So that's for a Windows device. Now, if you're looking for it on a Mac, so again, Apple, you just go to the Apple menu. You just want to look for system preferences. And again, just like on the iPhone, you're looking for keyboard and then enable dictation. So it's exactly the same as on the iPhone. It's just you're now on a Apple system. So you go into keyboard, enable dictation. So a few different ways in which you can enable that feature. And as I say, that carries across 2 different documents. So let's look at the Microsoft 365 Office suite of programs. So you're probably all used to things like Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel. You can use the dictation feature in all of those. So either you can enable dictation by doing what we just did a moment ago, or you can go into the program itself and enable it. So I've brought up Microsoft Word here, as you can see. And all I need to do is just go to Home. And in Home, there's a option on the toolbar called Dictate. So you can see it's right here. And it is literally a microphone, and that's found under the Home settings. And if I just click on that, and again, if you go to Settings, there's a few settings that you can just check, make sure it's all set up correctly. Yep, that all looks good. And then I can just hit the microphone option and start talking like so. So I'm talking right now, and it is being input into Microsoft Word in real time. So this is a really great feature if you say for instance, this is for your own personal use. If you want to type up a document, you really can't be bothered to sit there and type it because it could take a while. You could just sit here and talk. Now, I haven't actually turned oh, no, I have turned punctuation on, so it is putting it in there for me. It also does spell check, grammar checks, and it will just keep typing as I'm talking. Now, again, very useful if you're supporting somebody who might be have hard of hear, well, have sight restrictions, or again, they might not be able to use their hands in order to type. They have trouble with that or seeing the screen. If you put dictation on, you could type out a whole document just by them talking, as you can see. So let's turn that off. And as you can see, it is typed out a whole paragraph for me there. So that's perfect. That's done exactly what I wanted it to do. So again, just an example of how to use that. And that's its own separate dictation feature on Word. So let's just minimize that. Now, again, there are some other apps you can use this in. So if you're used to using things like Google Documents, which you might use. So all I do is type Google Documents. Again, this is the, you log in, you have the ability to type up just like Microsoft Word in here, and you do have the same things like PowerPoint, Excel on there as well. It also enables you to do a version dictation. So how do you do this? You just go to Tools and you do voice typing. When you click on that, you can talk, and it will then, again, do the same thing it did a moment ago. So what you're looking for here in most cases is you're looking for a settings menu. If it is a Windows computer, as I say, you can just hit that functionality on your keyboard. So Win and H, and it will bring it up. How do you do it? As say on Mac, as I mentioned before, exactly the same as the iPhone. You're looking for the enabling dictation. But if you're looking in programs of their own, just go to the settings. You'll usually find there is dictation in there, or on the toolbar, you will usually find it's on there as well. And for social media, as I mentioned before, if you want to turn this on, just like I mentioned previously, you're looking for that microphone option. So that's just an example of how you can turn this on or use it. Now, again, in most cases, you do need to give permission for your microphone to be used in order for it to actually be able to pick up your voice and work, as I mentioned before, but it's a great feature that come in incredibly handy. So from speech to text, that takes us to text to speech. So that's typing something and it talking, or getting a piece of information spoken to us. So maybe a web page, our computer or our phone reads it out loud to us so we can hear it, or maybe it's just using our phone day to day. Maybe if we have difficulties with our sight, we might be quite limited in our sight. Very useful feature because you can get your phone to read out exactly where everything is. You can navigate through that text-to-speech feature. Now, there are a number of ways in which this can operate. And again, you have quite a lot of freedom in how you do this. And I'll explain that as we go through. So to begin with, again, we'll look at Android and what is already available to you. So I've just taken some screenshots from my Android. I've posted them up here. I have both Android and iPhone, so I can operate off of both for this session. But this is the functionality for Android. Now, in your Android, if you go to your settings and you look for accessibility, you will have an accessibility menu page like so. And from there, you can do a lot of things around that accessibility piece. And a lot of what I go through today will be directing you back to your accessibility settings. Now, this goes with everything. As I say, if you just look at your settings and you're looking for accessibility in whatever it is you're using, you'll often find there are a lot of features available to you. So just going on the Android, if I go to accessibility, the first option is you can go straight to accessibility modes just by typing that into the phone. And then from here, you can turn on various features. So at the moment, it's all off. I don't want text speech on my phone because it would be talking all the time. But you can just turn this on and you can go to your text to speech settings. And from there, you have a list of settings available to you. And that's down to you what you want to enable or disable. Again, very crucial if you're in a position of care or you have those under your care. that you understand that these features are available on their own devices or on devices you may be supplying to them, because it can make life so much easier. The second option available to you on Android is if you go to accessibility. Again, you'll see your accessibility features. And the pre-installed one on my phone is called TalkBack. So if I click on TalkBack, just a word of warning here, if you are doing this in live time with me, I wouldn't recommend turning it on, just because until you understand how to turn it off, it can be quite difficult. So the moment you turn it on, what will happen is your Android will literally start explaining everything on your screen that you're tapping on. So you do have to figure out how to go back and actually disable that in order to turn it off. Now, it will also highlight the piece of information it's talking about, and it will read it out loud. It will ask you what you want to do next. It will tell you to double tap in order to move on. That's just to avoid the case that if you did turn on a feature like this, you don't want to be tapping anywhere on the screen. It just starts reading everything. That's why it reads it, and then it tells you to double tap if that's what you were looking for. So it gives you that option. Now, as I said before, you do have the ability to add different apps in here. You're not just limited to these two features. You can go ahead to your App Store, so to Google Play, and you can download different apps that are text-to-speech apps that support you. Now, there are some very good ones upon doing my own research in this, but what I'll say is I'm not going to recommend any just to protect myself, but do some research in that field. As I say, there are some very good apps in there that you can download onto the phone, which are much better than TalkBack and operate really well just by doing certain gestures on your screen. It can enable that talking feature. Now, how do you activate the settings in those apps? Well, once you've installed the app, all you do is you go to accessibility. It will immediately link to your accessibility as an accessibility app. So you just go to your installed apps, and from there, you can enable the settings for those apps. But that's just to show you that you are not limited to just these. So if you do use something like TalkBack, you do go through the text-to-speech settings, you're really not getting on with it, you can install apps that will do it for you, and you can manage the settings in installed apps. So what about iOS, an Apple device, such as an iPhone? How do you use a text-to-speech feature? So again, very simple. They've streamlined this quite nicely. With Android, you always will have more capability. So you basically can download different apps, add them all in there. It gives you more functionality, but it can be more complex. So Apple, they obviously streamline everything down to their services. So in this case, if you go to your settings, and then in settings, you will find accessibility. So again, you're always looking for accessibility in settings. Once you go into accessibility settings, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for spoken content because it's text to speech. So you go to spoken content, and then it'll bring up this screen here. So a few options are available to you. So first one is speak selection. To turn it on, you would enable this slider. That one is currently in the off position. This one is on, but you would turn that on. And basically a speak button will appear when you select text. So if you tap on something on the screen, the option will appear to you to speak. So say I'm on a web page, and I tap on that page, there will be an option appear. If I tap on that, it will then read the page for me. So again, it gives you the ability to tap on that yourself rather than it just automatically reading everything out. The other option available to you here is speak screen. So that's if you tap that on, what you do is you swipe down from the top of the screen using two fingers, and then you'll hear the content from the screen. So it could be any screen on your iPhone, just tap at the top, swipe down, and then it will read the content for you. So you physically have to give a gesture. But again, it gives you that ability to control that yourself rather than it just reading it automatically for you. So as I say, a couple of options available to you: speak selection and speak screen. So as I do have a look at those, you can also default the voices and default language just to increase that inclusivity in there. And again, can be very helpful if you're defaulting those for people, again, with hearing difficulties or whatever it might be. You can default it. And again, that takes us on to computers and other devices. So if we're looking at a Windows device, how do we turn on text to speak? Well, I'll show you how to do that. It'll probably start immediately talking at me. But the easiest way to do it is to turn on what we call narrator. So on your computer, you would hit the Windows key again. So it will either be the Windows logo. You'll see a key on your keyboard that's the Windows logo, or will have the letters WIN. You have to hold these all at the same time. So it'll be Windows, Control, and Enter, all at the same time. And it will appear any second. I can see it's doing, yeah, it's already appeared. So I'm going to quickly bring this across. And in my ears, I can hear it's now narrating all of this for me. I've just paused it so it doesn't get too distracting. But where this blue box appears, it will then read exactly what's on the screen. So that's the easiest way to turn narrator on. You can also do it in your settings menu as well. So if you go across to settings, and you can just go to accessibility, and in here again you've got speech. So you go to speech. And then in here, you'll find those narrator options as well. Or you can literally just type in narrator in here. So you can see narrator audio. So again, you will always find these in settings. The easiest way, if you can't find it by clicking through buttons, is just to type it in this search bar at the top of the screen, and you'll find your narrator options. But as you can see, and we'll get onto this later on as we go through, there is an accessibility feature. And in here, this is where you have control over all those accessibility options on your Windows device. Now, I'll get on to web browsers in a moment, but in Microsoft apps, so if you do have any apps on your computer, your Windows device, you do have the option to go to read aloud. And usually to do that, you would just right click on the content and click read aloud. And I'll show you in a moment how that works. But for a Mac, again, you're looking at the accessibility features. So if you go to settings, go to accessibility, you'll have an option of voice over. Just need to turn that on and it'll go through for you. It'll start reading out the content on the screen. You also have the same options that you found on the iOS. So speak selection is in there as well, which you'd turn on. And again, it's the same feature taken across that we just looked at a moment ago. Now, I mentioned web browsers just then. So let's have a look at a couple of those. So the first one I want to touch on is Google Chrome. So you might all be used to using Google Chrome. We'll get onto speed tests in a moment. I do actually have this preloaded, so I'll make sure I bring up the right web page. So if we go to settings in here, I'm just on one of my emails. But if we go to settings in Chrome, so you just click these three dots at the top corner of your page. And with most browsers, if you're looking for your settings, you're usually looking up here. There'll usually be these dots or a settings menu or some bars. It's always found in the corner. If you just click on those, we'll open a settings page. On your settings page, you have a few options. I want to highlight again, I do have accessibility options in here. So if I want to do some changes or make some amendments to certain things to help with accessibility, I'll find them in here. But we're going to look at something called extensions on here. So if I click into extensions, it'll take me to a web store where you can add certain things to your browser to really bring it to life. Now, I normally use extensions to do things like different security things, antivirus, software, that kind of thing, which I implement, stopping pop-ups, all those kind of things. There's also different extensions which support people with online shopping, looking for the best deals, those kind of things. There are thousands of them. And really anybody can make an extension and submit it to get verified and added onto this store. But you can also find different accessibility features in here that can really bring that browser to life and help someone with those accessibility needs. So, as I mentioned before, I'll go back across to extensions in a moment. But with Google Chrome, what if I want Google Chrome to do text to speak? I want it to read everything out for me. Well, I could download an extension. So one version of this I'll just type out is read. Let's just type read aloud. And as you can see, it has different extensions for me. So text to speech, voice reader, read aloud here. So I can click on one of these And as you can see, it shows me what it's all about. So you can see it has text to speech. If I go through, I can see reviews. I can see if Google verify it. So there's a lot of ratings here. Again, you can see if they are verified. So another one is that read aloud extension. If I go on there, just see who has verified it, just to make sure it's legitimate. I can see there's 5 million users in here. So all that information has to be verified in order to be uploaded to the Chrome Web Store. And when I'm happy with the one that I want to download, I'll just click download in this box here, and then it will add it to my extensions. So where do you find those? Well, if you go to your web browser, you see there's this, it looks like a jigsaw piece up here at the top of the screen next to the search bar. If I click in there, it will show all your extensions. You just click onto it, and then you can enable the settings. So you can turn it on. You have full autonomy in there of how you manage that. Now, Microsoft Edge, as I said before, it has this built into it. So if I go across to Edge, like so, I'm on the Sussex Digital Team website right now. Oops, I zoomed in there. But I'm on a web page. You're on any web page here. All you need to do is right click, and then you go to read aloud. And then that will read any text available to you on the screen. Now, instead of doing this, there is another way. And as you can see, you can hit the keys on the screen, which are Control, Shift, and U, and then it will start reading those out for you as well. But you're always looking for either dictate, read aloud, voiceover, that kind of language you're looking for in trying to find these options that are available to you. Now, what about Safari with Apple device? So again, with Safari, you would be going to your preferences again. You'll be going to your accessibility options, and you'll be going to those speech features. And that's where you're able to find those different features available to you. So moving off that speech-based, that speech-to-text, text-to-speak side of things, we're now going to look at making pieces of information easier to read on a screen. So again, this is for those who might have sight difficulties or learning difficulties or comprehension difficulties, could really meet any of our needs. There are lots of different features available to you in order to manage this. And even for all of you on the call today, you'll probably be surprised at the options that are out there available to you. So easy read options, they improve the readability of text. And what they typically do is they simplify the layout. They increase things like font size or use plain language to assist individuals with cognitive disabilities, visual impairments. As I said, here's how we can do a few of those features. So like I've done previously, we'll start off with Android, move on to iOS. So looking at those smartphone devices, how can I manage these in here? So first one you can do is you can go to your accessibility options. So as I mentioned, settings, accessibility, or you can just type accessibility. And then from there, you'll have your accessibility options. Now in there, you can do things like enabling text, and I'll show you how that looks. I have done a screen record here for all of you. So I've gone to accessibility. We're just going to go to visual enhancements, and then you have this visual enhancements menu on here. You can go to things like high contrast theme, where you can change the look of the contrast of your phone. So again, it can make it easier on the eyes. You can also go to high contrast keyboard, and this is how it will look. So you can change how your keyboard looks on your phone. And even some of you on here, you might notice that one version might look easier than the others to yourself. You can also highlight certain buttons so that they can be found easier. You can magnify, you can customize your cursor, you can do screen zoom. You can also increase the font size. So firstly, you can change your font. It doesn't have to be the standard. And then you can increase the font size by using this slider or decrease the font size. You can also make the font bold, so it stands out more or not. So really up to you how you use that. But that's just show that in those accessibility features, you're going to vision enhancements, and in there, you have all of these options available to you. Now, what about iOS? So with iOS, what I've done is I've added a full help guide in here, actually, which I found is really useful. So if I send out this presentation, if you click on the phone itself, it will take you to a website, which I'll show you. And this website is an iPhone user guide. Now, what I'll also do is I'll pop this into the chat, as it's very useful to have. And in here, it takes you through all of the accessibility options available to you for different things. So you've got vision, you've got mobility, hearing, speech, cognitive. You have all of those accessibility features. Now, looking at vision, if I was to learn more about these, you can choose your version of iOS. And then again, it takes you through step by step how to do each thing on your iPhone in order to increase the accessibility. And most of these you'll be finding in your settings under accessibility, where you'll be able to do things like change the contrast, make the text bigger, enlarge the text, highlight certain buttons, just like in Android. But this is a really good place to find it. And as I say, I've put the link into the chat, and I've also included the link in the slide deck. So just click on the phone itself, and it'll take you through to that. I'll just click through. So for computers, let's start off using Windows device. So as I showed you before, if you go to your Windows settings, go down to accessibility, and in accessibility, you have these different features available to you. Now, some of these features, as we mentioned before, will be things like text size, where you can increase the size of your text or decrease the size, and once you're happy, you apply it. You can also go to related settings, where you can change the brightness, you can put light mode, you can change the display. You can also choose the contrast themes as well. So if we go to contrast, you can change the contrast colors on the computer. There are also different themes you can apply to the computer itself. Again, all to just make it easier to view. And as I mentioned before, tying into this for a visual aid, you can also use that narrator feature, which I mentioned before, by hitting Windows H. Sorry, you can use narrator. You can go across to narrator, as you can see. And then in here, you have a few options around narrator. You can also just start it straight from settings. So if I type in narrator, you see I've got start narrator, and that will read things for me as I go through as well. So that simplifies comprehension. For a Mac, again, there's a few different features available to you, but just like the iPhone and just like the web page that I submitted to you a moment ago, you're looking for the settings and then accessibility again. And in there, you'll find those different features, such as increasing contrast, reducing motion, increasing the text size. So again, lots of options available to you, and I will send out slides, and they contain full step-by-step on all the options available to you and where to find those. Now, the final one that I just want to quickly go through before I head on is, again, to make things easier to read, you can install extensions on Chrome as well. So just like I showed you before, if you go to your settings, extensions, you'll go to that Chrome store. You can download different extensions which make it easier to read, can add a contrast theme as well. So if I just go to Chrome store, show you what that looks like. We'll make sure we will go back down to extensions. And then from here, I could do contrast maybe. So if I just type in, I actually have the extension, which I've actually added one of them already to this. And I've got a few random extensions on here too, which I'll go through in a moment. But I say, what you want to do, I'm not going to go through the ones which I have found just for my protection, but you can do your research on the different extensions available to you. Just do a quick Google search, go to YouTube, watch a video, look for the ones with good reviews that are trusted. And from there, you can download an extension to add, which can help make text easier to comprehend. If you're looking at something like Mozilla Firefox, you could use reader mode. So on the Mozilla Firefox options, there is a book symbol. If you click on there in the address bar, you can adjust text size, font, color. With Microsoft Edge, what you'll be doing is reading aloud, like we mentioned before. And also with Safari, you've got something called Reader and View. So in the settings, you'll be able to find that. But that links in really nicely with customization features, because a lot of the customization would tie into making things easier to read by doing those different contrasts, colors, wallpapers, text size. That is all part of the same the same idea, so to speak. So what is this? Adapting devices with colored backgrounds, large text, or contrast adjustments for individual needs. So it's assessing each person on their individual needs and then looking at the accessibility features available to them in settings. So as I said before, Android devices, we've already gone through in great detail, but you go into accessibility, in there you have those features which I showed you a moment ago. Again, you can use things like blue light filter backgrounds. You can change the color of the screen. You can put night mode on. You can put dark mode on. A few different options available to you there. iOS, again, you're going to settings and accessibility, and you're looking at those features that we've just gone through as well. For computers, again, accessibility, change the text sizing, backgrounds, contrast, really is up to you what you do there. But lots of features available to you. And as I mentioned, I have put step by step all of this in the show notes. So if you go to this slide deck, if you look at the notes beneath the slide, you'll see all the different technologies and devices available, the most popular ones, and I've put step by step how to access each of the accessibility features. But in most cases, you are just looking for, the accessibility. So you go to settings, you look for accessibility. Now, one thing I will really quickly show you if it will work, I'm just going to go to, bear with me a second. We're just going to try and get a feature here. So if I bring across the extension store again, if I go to high contrast, and again, from here, you can change how things look. So if you wanted to change the contrast, the colors of a web browser, so again, I'm in Chrome. I've just gone to the Chrome Web Store, typed in high contrast. You see there's a few options. Just make sure they're verified. Check the reviews are good. It's nothing too dodgy. You can see who's verified them. So Google themselves have verified this one. So you can use one like that. But again, it's up to you what you want to use. But there are loads of ones available to you. Just click on the one that you want. You can see this changes the contrast. You can use this to make the colors easier to look at. And again, just add it to Chrome, and from there you can control it in your extensions menu. So what about voice controlled devices and really getting into it? Again, working care homes, you're probably very used to these. I know speaking to care homes day to day, lots of them often will get or have donated or purchased lots of voice controlled devices. I'm going to go through the most popular ones today. So Alexa, Google Assistant, and Siri. I do apologize if I set any of yours off. I'm going to be very careful with how I speak here, just so I don't set my own off, because that would probably drive me mad here if I keep hearing this speaking the same thing over and over again. But they're really good tools for managing things like reminders, answering simple questions, performing everyday tasks without really having to move or type. We can just speak and it will do it for us. And we're probably all familiar with these. We probably use them all day to day. So Alexa, how do you do this? So you download the Alexa app, so on iOS or Android, and then you connect it to an Amazon Echo device or other Alexa enabled devices. So again, it's up to you, depends which device you have. And then you can do certain things. So what are the most common things these are used for? So people use them for reminders. So they'll say the word Alexa. And again, try not to set mine off. And then you'll ask it to do something for you. So like reminding you to take medication at a certain time. Sort of prompt you at that time of day. It will then remind you to take medication. You get to review or you can also view or manage those reminders on the app. So if you don't know how to turn them off or you need to disable them, just go back onto the app and turn those off. You can do alarms and timers on there, so you can tell it to wake you up, set a timer for 30 minutes. You can tell it to wake you up at a certain time each day. You can ask it simple queries, so you just ask it questions like what's the weather tomorrow, how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon, that kind of thing, just general questions. It will then search its database that it gets its data from, and it will give you an answer. Shopping lists, another great one to use on there, so you can add items to a shopping list. And again, you can check those lists on the Alexa app itself. You've got calendar integration as well, so you can connect it to your Google or Outlook calendar on the Alexa app. So this is one that I do. So I will connect, say, Outlook. I use that email service. I use Google as well. If I go to the Alexa app, if I connect that to the Alexa app by logging in, I can then just ask Alexa if I've got anything on today and it'll tell me. So again, another really useful one to have there. Another one, very popular one, Google Assistant. Now, how do you set that up? Well, again, it's available on Android devices. It's often built into the Android device automatically. It was on this one here that I have. Or if you have iOS, so Apple, you can download it. So again, that's Google Assistant. How do you operate it? You say, hey, Google, or okay, Google. Mine's just turned on. So I'll turn that off because it's listening. And that will activate it. You can also press the microphone icon on the Google app, or in my case, if I just hold the home button, it turns that on as well for me. What can you do to this? Well, you can link your Google account or integrate Gmail calendar. What is often the case is these are referred to as ecosystems. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Samsung has its own ecosystem, which is if you have a Samsung phone, watch, maybe a Samsung device like this, you can link them all together, sign in on all of them. Another one is Apple. So you can have the Apple ecosystem, which is the Mac, iPhone, Apple Watch, Siri. Again, they all link together. Again, these are ecosystems, and by logging in, you can connect everything up together and operate everything. So what are common things that are used on here? So again, reminders. So just say, hey, Google, or okay, Google. Again, I'll turn mine off. Then get it to remind you to do certain things. You can view reminders in Google Assistant or Google Tasks. So again, go to your Google Assistant app or Google Tasks app, and in there, you'll be able to view your reminders and manage them or delete them. You can also, again, get it set timers, wake you up at certain times, ask it certain questions, do shopping lists, navigate, travel. So lots of different features available in there. You can also connect these systems up to other smart devices in the home. So you get them to turn off and on lights, provided you have smart lights, even heating, lots of different things you can get it to do if it is connected to those other technologies, if you have them. And then finally, you mentioned it a few times already, but there's Siri. So that's Apple's version here. So Siri is built into all Apple devices. And if you don't have it enabled, you just go to settings and then Siri. And that's how you enable it. So you turn it on from there. And how do you activate it? You just say, hey, Siri, or hold the home or side button. So press and hold it, and it will come on. And again, you can use it to do all the same things that we just went through today. And again, you can link it to your calendar on your Apple devices as part of that Apple ecosystem, and then they all are connected together. So if you have a diary on one device, on your Siri, it'll be able to tell you what's on that, provided you've logged in. Now, a couple more that I will just quickly highlight. You've got Microsoft Cortana, that's available on Windows PC. Or as an app on Android and iOS, but it is limited the functionality. Again, you can do the same things. On my Windows device, Cortana, you'll be able to see at the bottom. You've also got something called Copilot as well, and I'll just show you how that looks at the bottom of the screen. So you've got this option here as well. So Copilot, that can support you with a few things. Another quick mention is Samsung. So they have what's called Bixby. That's their own version there. Again, built into all Samsung devices. You just activate it by saying hi Bixby or pressing the Bixby button. And again, you can do those same options on there. And the final piece that I just want to touch on today is digital accessibility standards. So the reason that I bring this to you today is it's so important that we are making this technology, we're making this technology available to those we are caring for, who are in our care. They have the right to it. It can significantly improve their lives or help them connect to people, connect family, friends, or do day-to-day activities with ease where they might have impairments or disability. And as I say, it's their right to know that it's there and they have it. So we need to make sure it's fair and accessible to those who have it. Now, as I say, inclusion is a big piece. You may have people in your care who have the devices available to them, but they don't understand how to operate them. They don't know they're there. And again, it could make using a device so much more simple for them. And again, reconnect them to their loved ones, or reconnect them to different pieces of technology to them, so they're not feeling so isolated. And it can come down to something so simple as just being able to do an update. So often, and I found this, people have the technology in place, but over time they find it gets slower and slower and slower, and they eventually just give up on it, gets dust, collects dust, or they just don't use it anymore. And that's just because they're not updating the system. So something as simple as just understanding how to update your software can make a huge difference. If you have the latest software, you're going to have the latest accessibility features. Now, you might have a device that's out of date. It no longer does software updates. And in that situation, you would need to buy a new device. But in most situations, the device might be old, but it's still allowing software updates. And with those software updates come those new pieces of technology. So how would you do a software update? Really simple. So with iOS, you go to your settings, you go to general, and at the top of the page, you'll see software update. Click in there. If you haven't done one, it will tell you need to do one. Some of us might have them on automatically, so they do them automatically, but software updates are so important for the health of your device. And in the next session, I go into great detail of how important these are. Also from a cybersecurity standpoint, really important, so don't just put it off. Yes, they can take a while to update, but they are very important. They update all the software on the device, and they will enable you to have access to new features, the latest features. Same goes for Android. If you just go, you can literally just type in software update into settings, and you'll find it in there. But if you go to settings, just scroll down, it'll have its own section. It actually, funnily enough, sits right underneath accessibility on my phone. So just click software update. Again, that will tell you if you have a new software update available to you. What about computer? Well, again, with a Mac, you're just going to general, and in there you've got software updates, so exactly the same as the iPhone. And in Windows, easiest way to do this, if again, I just go across to my settings, and then in here, if I just type in up, the easiest way to do this is literally type updates up here. And then I can see if there's any updates. So let's just go to Windows Update settings. I'm all up to date. If I wasn't up to date, I can just click apply updates. I've turned this slider on so it tells me when I've got updates available, and I can just install those. But again, software updates are a huge benefit to you if you're looking for the latest accessibility tech. And it's so important we are making sure that if people are under our care and they do have access to different devices, they are fully updated and they understand where they can get their accessibility tech. But it will be a case-by-case basis. If you do spend a bit of time just assessing them and what you feel will be most beneficial to them, it's best to start those conversations. Now, we'll open for questions in a couple of minutes, but before I do that, just want to highlight that we are going to do a part 2 session. And that part 2 session will go into the problem solving essentials. So if you go across to our website, it won't be up yet, but it will be coming. We'll do that part 2, and we'll highlight it as part 2 problem solving essentials. And from there, you can book on, and I'll go through all of those common challenges like different internet issues. So for instance, how to check your internet speed. And I will just highlight this one before I close off the session, just to give you a taster of this session. I've had care homes come to me where their fundamental technology flaw is simply their internet speed. They've come to me with a whole host of issues, and all of them could have been corrected just by having faster internet. Now, they didn't know how to do that, and I'll give you an example of one care home. They called me. They had 20 rooms in their homes, so 20 residents that they were looking after. But there was a problem where they had all of this technology and they were buying new tech all the time, and none of it was working. It was causing quite a bit of distress because some of those residents had often relied quite heavily on those, and as they had more residents come in, none of them were able to use anything. And this person had got to a point where they were spending almost £300 a month on their internet package. And they kept updating it and spending more and more and more trying to update this package. They'd gone out, they'd bought several boosters to put around the home to try and improve this, but nothing worked. And so what I did was I did a simple speed check with this person. So if you go across to Google, you can just type in speed test. I've just gone onto which.com. It's simple. You don't have to go on that one. Just type in speed test. You'll see speed test. all you do is click start speed test. So in here, it'll do a speed test. Now mine's pretty slow because I live in the middle of nowhere. So literally I am very remote, but mine's still fast enough to hold a stable connection and do a session like this for you. Typically, I'd want over 100 megabits per second, but for me, I'll settle with around 80. That's very good for where I live. So that's the download speed. That's how quick I can open new pages, download information. You also want to look at the response time. So this is something called latency or ping. And basically, you want it to be low. When it's low, what you're using will be able to work better. You'll get less cutting in or out, like lagging. So if my picture's going all blurry or things aren't working very well or slow, that's usually because your ping's quite high. Now, what causes it to be high? Well, usually if a lot of people are using the internet at the same time in the house. Now, I'm the only one in right now, so I'm the only one using it, so my ping is quite low. So everything's working fine for me. Now, when I got this person to do a speed check, you will not believe this. As I said, I would typically try and get over 100. That would be great, megabits per second, if you're trying to get internet, especially if you've got a home with a lot of people. You're probably going to want a lot faster internet. Now, their download speed was 2 megabits per second, and it's probably one of the lowest I've ever seen. And their response time was in the triple digits for their ping. Really high ping, really low. And the reason for that is because they had 2 megabits, which is incredibly slow. So their web page is going to take forever. Their devices aren't going to be connecting very well. But on top of that, because there's so many people trying to use it, the response time is just unbelievably slow. Now, what they did to try and solve this is they bought boosters, which tried to boost the internet around the house. They didn't realize that all a booster does is it boosts the signal. So say, for instance, my router is behind me. I have a bungalow, so quite a large floor space on the bottom floor. If I'm in the other side of the house, it's quite hard to get internet, so I've got a booster. It just basically boosts the signal over there, so then I can connect to the internet. It doesn't make your internet more powerful. So they bought all these boosters, which are just pinging around their 2 megabits a second, and that's why nothing worked. So you can use websites like this to check your postcode to see what's available to you. If you are in a very rural area, and again, always compare your broadband deals. Just check what you can get, check the speeds. If you are in a very rural, remote location, there are options available to you through satellite broadband. So just do some checks there. You can actually get some really high speeds, like 250 to 300 megabits a second, just from satellite. Even if you're out on the ocean, you can get certain packages which will give you internet even all the way out there. So there's always a solution in this case. And for that person, it solved everything. They suddenly had fast internet, everything worked perfectly. And that's just giving you a flavor of that next session. So I go through all of those quick fixes. I take you through in detail. We touch on internet issues. We go through advanced issues. We go to system errors like freezing screens, how to connect, how to reset certain devices like routers. But that'll all be in part 2. But thank you so much for everyone for coming on this session. I will quickly go back to this page here. So if you go across to our website, sussexdigitalteam.co.uk, you'll be able to look in the future for that session. It'll take you through to Eventbrite. You can book on there. I've also got my email address, but that is everything from me. I haven't seen any questions in the chat. If anyone does have any questions, please post them. But in the meantime, Nada, do you have anything else you'd like to add?